1 Kings chapter 9 Response of the Lord. After Solomon had finished building the Lord's house, the royal palace, and everything he wanted to build, the Lord appeared to him a second time as he had appeared to him at Gibeon. The Lord said to him, I have heard the prayer and supplication you made before me. I have consecrated this house you have built, that my name may be there forever. My eyes and my heart will be there forever. As for you, if you will live in my presence, the way your father David did, with sincerity and uprightness of heart, doing all that I have commanded you, and keeping my decrees and laws, I will affirm your kingship in Israel forever, as I promised your father David when I said, you shall always have someone from your family on the throne of Israel. But if you or your children refuse to follow me and disobey my commands and laws which I have set before you, and if you go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will cut off Israel from the land which I have given them, and I will remove from my sight this house I have consecrated for my name. Israel will become a proverb and a byword among all peoples. This house will be reduced to a heap of stones, and everyone passing by will be astonished and jeer. Why has the Lord done such a thing to this land and to this house? Then people will answer, because they abandoned the Lord their God, who brought their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and they followed other gods, worshipping and serving them. That is why the Lord has brought all this evil on them. Solomon's achievements. During these 20 years in which Solomon had built the two houses, the Lord's house and the royal house, Hiram king of Tyre had supplied Solomon with as much cedar, cypress, timber and gold as he wanted. Then King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. But when Hiram left Tyre to visit the cities which Solomon had given him, he was displeased and said, What kind of cities have you given me, my brother? And that is why to this day they are called the land of Kabul. Hiram, however, had sent to the king 120 talents of gold. This is the account of the forced labor imposed by King Solomon for the building of the Lord's house and his own palace, the Millo as well as the wall of Jerusalem, Hazor, Megiddo, and Giza. Pharaoh king of Egypt had captured and burnt Giza, putting to death the Canaanites who dwelt there. There he had given the city as dowry to his daughter Solomon's wife. So Solomon rebuilt Giza. He built up Lower Bethhoron, Baalas, and Tamar in the desert in the land of Judah. All the cities that Solomon had, the cities for his chariots and those for his horsemen, and whatever Solomon wanted to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. And all the people who were left of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, who were not of the people of Israel, their descendants who were left in the land, and whom the Israelites were unable to destroy completely. On all of these Solomon imposed forced labor and remains so to this day. Of the people of Israel, however, Solomon made no slaves. They were his soldiers, his officials, his commanders, his captains, his chariot commanders and horsemen. The overseers of Solomon's work, in charge of those who were working, were 550. When Pharaoh's daughter went up from the city of David to her own house that Solomon had built for her, he began building the Millo. Solomon came 3 times a year to offer burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar which he had built to the Lord, burning incense before the Lord. So he finished building the temple. King Solomon built a fleet of ships at Ezion-Geber near Elath on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. Hiram sent his servants, seamen who were familiar with the sea, to serve in the fleet together with the servants of Solomon. They sailed for Ophir and brought back to King Solomon gold amounting to 420 talents. 1 Kings chapter 10. The Queen of Sheba visits Solomon. The Queen of Sheba heard about Solomon's fame and came to test him with difficult questions. She arrived in Jerusalem with a vast retinue, with camels loaded with spices, and abundance of gold and precious stones. When she came to Solomon, she told him all that she had on her mind, and Solomon answered all her questions. There was nothing that the king could not explain to her. And when the Queen of Sheba had seen all the wisdom of Solomon, the palace he had built, the food on his table, the residence of his officials, the attendance of his servants and their clothing, his cupbearers, and the burnt offerings which he offered at the Lord's house, it left her breathless with amazement. Then she said to the king, "All that I heard in my own land concerning you and your wisdom are true. But I did not believe the reports until I came and saw them with my own eyes. And what did I see? I was not told even half the story, for your wisdom and prosperity surpassed the report I had heard. Fortunate are your wives, fortunate are your servants, who are ever in your presence and hear your wisdom. Blessed be the Lord your God, who has looked kindly on you and has put you on the throne of Israel. Because of the Lord's eternal love for Israel, he has made you king to dispense justice and righteousness." Then she gave the king 120 talents of gold, spices in abundance, and precious stones. Such an abundance of spices as those which the Queen of Sheba gave to Solomon was never seen again. Moreover, the fleet of Hiram, which brought gold from Ophir, also brought from Ophir a huge amount of almug wood and precious stones. The king used the almug wood to make supports for the Lord's house and the royal palace, and also to make lyres and harps for the singers. Such almug wood has never again been brought or seen to the present day. King Solomon in turn gave the Queen of Sheba all that she desired and all that he had in his generosity wanted to give her. Then she went back to her own land together with her servants. Solomon's wealth. Now the weight of gold that Solomon received in 1 year was 666 gold talents, not counting that brought by traders, merchants, the kings of Arabia, and the governors of the land. King Solomon made 200 large shields of beaten gold, 600 shekels of gold going into each shield. And he made 300 shields of beaten gold and 3 minas of gold in each shield. And the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. The king also made a huge ivory throne and overlaid it with the finest gold. The throne had 6 steps, a back with a rounded top, and on each side of the seat were armrests with 2 lions standing beside the armrest. The 6 steps had 12 lions, one on each end of a step. Nothing like this was ever made in any kingdom. All of King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold and none of silver. For silver was not considered of much value in the days of Solomon. The king had a fleet of Tarshish ships at sea with Hiram's fleet, and once every 3 years the fleet of Tarshish ships would bring gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. King Solomon surpassed all the kings of the earth in wealth and wisdom, and the whole world sought audience with Solomon to hear the wisdom which God had put into his mind. Everyone who came brought a present, articles of silver and gold, garments, weapons, spices, horses and mules as annual tribute. Solomon gathered together chariots and horses, 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horses, which is stationed in the chariot cities and with the king in Jerusalem. The king made silver as common as stone in Jerusalem, and cedar as plentiful as sycamore in the lowlands. Solomon imported his horses from Mosul and Kue, and the king's traders purchased them from Kue at the prevailing price. A chariot could be imported from Mosul for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150. They were exported in the same way to all the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Aram. Psalm 137. Song of the Exiles in Babylon. By the streams of Babylon we sat and wept as we remembered Zion. There on the poplars we hung our harps and lyres, for there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors wanted songs of joy. Sing to us one of the songs of Zion. How can we sing the Lord's song in a strange and alien land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand fall useless. May my tongue cleave to my palate, if I remember you not, if I consider not Jerusalem the greatest of my joys. Remember, O Lord, the Edomites, what they did and said when Jerusalem fell. They cried, tear the city down, tear it down to its foundations. O daughter of Babylon, doomed to destruction, happy is he who repays you for what you have done to us. Happy shall be anyone who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. John chapter 8, verse 1 to 27. The adulterous woman. Jesus, however, went to the Mount of Olives. At daybreak, Jesus appeared in the temple again. All the people came to him, and as he sat down and began to teach them. Then the teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They made her stand in the middle. Master, they said, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now the law of Moses orders that such women be stoned to death, but you, what do you say? They said this to test Jesus so they could have him some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and started writing on the ground with his finger. And as they persisted to ask him, he straightened up and said to them, let anyone among you who has no sin be the first to throw a stone at her. He bent down again and continued writing on the ground. When they heard this, they went away one by one, starting with the elders, and Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before her. Then Jesus straightened himself up and said to her, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She replied, No one, sir. And Jesus said, Neither do I condemn you. Go and do not sin again. Jesus, the light of the world. Jesus spoke to them again, I am the light of the world. Anyone who follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. The Pharisees replied, Now you are speaking on your own behalf. Your testimony is worthless. Then Jesus said, Even though I bear witness to myself, my testimony is true, for I know where I have come from and where I am going. But you do not know where I came from or where I am going. You judge by human standards. As for me, I judge no one. But if I had to judge, my judgment would be valid, for I am not alone. For the Father who sent me is with me. In your law it is written that the testimony of two witnesses is valid. So I am bearing witness to myself, and the Father who sent me bears witness to me. They asked him, Where is your Father? Jesus answered, You do not know me or my Father. If you knew me, you would know my Father as well. Jesus said these things when he was teaching in the temple area, in the place where they received the offerings. Yet no one had arrested him because his hour had not yet come. Again Jesus said to them, I am going away, and though you look for me, you will die in your sin. Where I am going, you cannot come. The Jews wondered, is he going to kill himself? Is that what he means when he says, where I am going, you cannot come? But Jesus said, you are from below and I am from above. You are of this world and I am not of this world. That is why I told you that you will die in your sins, and you shall die in your sins unless you believe that I am he. So they asked him, who are you? Jesus said, just what I have told you from the beginning. I have much to say about you and much to judge, but the one who sent me is truthful, and everything I have learned from him I proclaim to the world. They did not understand that Jesus was speaking to them about the Father. So Jesus said, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he, and that I do nothing of myself, but I say just what the Father taught me.